Hello folks, I wanted to do a instructional video on how to use one of these sewer snakes, and in particular how to keep the spring snake from tangling up inside the basket here while you're using it. This is a VEVOR unit, VEVOR, and when I received this from the factory, the snake was coiled the wrong direction inside the basket, and I'll describe that to you. As you can see, this is specifying a normal forward rotation in the clockwise direction, and this unit does have the choice between clockwise and counterclockwise. So normal operation, you run it on clockwise. Counterclockwise is if you get bound up or something to try to break the cable loose from inside the pipe. But normal operation, clockwise. And I was having problems with the cable tangling up inside the basket here. In fact, I only got about, this is 75 feet of cable, and I only got about 12-15 feet of it out, and it got so tangled that I had to redo it. And then I figured out it was because it was wound in the wrong direction. So I wanted to explain all that and what I've learned, so hopefully I can eliminate others from running into the issue. Like I said, this came from the factory, wound the wrong direction. I'm not sure what led to that, but so it's basically a three-step process. You've got three things you're concerned about as far as which direction to run the drum and which direction to wrap the cable. So the first thing you need to look at is which direction is your cable wound. So you've got this spring steel and it's wound tightly into a cable. And if you look at mine, you'll see that it is wound, I don't know if it's going to show very well, but it's wound counterclockwise as you face the cable. So that spring steel is wound counterclockwise. And when that's the case, you want the basket to rotate the opposite direction. So they have that specified correctly. Counterclockwise wrap on the cable, clockwise rotation for your basket. That is correct. So once you've established that, then which direction do you coil your spring inside the basket? Well, you want it coiled the same direction as the rotation of the basket. So hopefully you can see that as I push this cable in, it's winding clockwise, and as I pull it out, it's unwinding counterclockwise. So the key is to wind it inside the basket in the same direction that the basket rotates. And you want the basket, you want the basket to rotate in the opposite direction that the snake is coiled in. And I'll describe why, hopefully. Set the phone down here. So as this is rotating inside the sewer line, if you hit roots and you hit some resistance, then it's going to tend to spin this cable in the direction that it's wound, and that's what you want. So it tightens the cable in the direction that it's wound. So if you're rotating the basket the other way, okay, so counterclockwise, and you hit resistance inside the pipe, you're going to tend to unwind. You're going to be unwinding this spring when you hit that resistance. So it's pretty tough spring, but you don't want to do that typically because you could damage it. I suppose if a guy had no choice and you had to rotate the basket in the same direction that the cable is wound, then you know, you might get away with it. But ideally, you're going to want to rotate the basket opposite the direction of the coil, and then that way when you hit your resistance, you tighten that. It tends to tighten that. So that's the three-step process. You start by ascertaining which direction your snake is wrapped, and then you want to rotate your basket the opposite direction, and then you want to wrap your cable inside the basket in the same direction as the basket rotation. If you do that, you should have no problems, because if you have this cable wrapped the other direction, again, when you hit resistance, it's going to tend to pull the cable in towards the center drum, and that's what was happening to me. And you can get away with that for a little while, but it keeps pulling the cable towards that center drum until it binds up, and then you can't go any further. I had to remove this front piece and then grab this middle drum with a pair of channel locks and just slowly unwrap it as I pulled the cable out, is how I got untangled. And then that's when I realized if you wrap it in the same direction the drum is rotating, then when you hit resistance, it tends to push the cable outward in the basket. That's what you want, because it can only go so far out, and it tightens up. And that's what you want. You don't want it pulling the cable towards the center of the drum when you hit resistance into your pipe. So hopefully that all made sense. And once I figured that out, got the cable wrapped in the right direction, it worked great. And I did run into roots. I had, let's see here. So I pulled them out. So I had a pretty good amount of resistance in there. But once I got this cable wrapped in the right direction, no issues. It just buzzed through things just fine. In fact, I ran it all the way out to, I think my sewer line runs 65 feet to the septic tank. And I did run it all the way through, and so everything's good to go now, and lesson learned. Hope that helps out. Thank you for watching.